Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel, Loc'D. I'm going to do another intro and where this video is going in a couple minutes, but I do want to urge you guys to educate yourself about the genocide that is happening to Palestinians, and there are going to be some clips throughout this video that's going to tell you how you can do something to help bring more awareness and boycott entities that are funding the continued genocide of Palestinians. We're going to start off with just some TikToks from a few creators I've seen online and how they synthesize what is happening with St. Martin Press and Wednesday book imprint, I believe.
This video is for St. Martin's Press and Wednesday Books. Recently, one of your employees was posting and spreading violently racist rhetoric on their public-facing social media platforms. Now, at face value, some people might think that this is an issue for this employee and St. Martin's Press, an issue concerning your own internal handbook and policies, social media guidelines, and values. But this employee is on your marketing team, so this is somebody who acts as a bridge between your works and your authors and readers and influencers, and as such they do have some sway on the decisions that are being made there. Some of the influencers of color who have worked with you in the past have noticed a pattern of inequality in the ways that they are treated versus their white counterparts. Now, when all of these concerns were put before you, the behavior of this employee, an employee who is arguably outward facing and has interactions with consumers and clients, the pattern of behavior when it comes to your influencers of color, and ultimately whether or not you would acknowledge or denounce or do anything about any of these concerns, you, St. Martin's Press and Wednesday Books, have done a number of things that just continue to feed my concern. You have stayed silent, or worse, you have engaged with the posts that are calling you out on this behavior without saying anything else. You have ignored emails with these concerns that were sent to you directly, and in the case that there was a response from your VP of marketing, it was so incredibly dismissive of the valid concerns that people are bringing to your doorstep. Now, here's the thing. It is absolutely your prerogative to accept any sort of employee behavior that you think is acceptable, but it is also my prerogative as a reader, as a content creator, as a reviewer, to decide what works I'm going to lend my platform to. Readers and reviewers are the people who you ultimately hope will be your customers, and influencers are doing your unpaid marketing for you. To be so incredibly dismissive of the concerns that these influencers have about the way that they are being treated by somebody who has explicitly expressed racist remarks does not make me want to lend my platform to your work. That is why I will be joining the boycott. Your books will not be featured on my platform. I know that there's a chance that you're hoping that this will only cause a ripple or that it will fizzle out and die, but I have a very long memory, and I try to be so careful about the things that I place in front of my large and growing audience and the things that I invest into, and I can't in good conscience promote the works that are under your imprint when you have shown yourself to be unsafe for people like me, or at the very least, you have shown that you do not care about our concerns. You can continue to remain silent on this issue, but as long as you do, I will also remain silent on this platform about your titles. I look forward to this imprint denouncing the racist ideas expressed by this employee. I look forward to hearing how you intend to mitigate the harm that was caused by this employee, and I look forward to hearing about your plans moving forward to make sure that your authors, your employees, your influencers, your readers, your customers feel safe and are treated equitably by your company. Until then.
Baby, can't you see I'm falling? A guy like you should wear a warning. It's dangerous. I'm falling. Love me, hate me, say what you want about me, but all of the boys and all of the girls is waiting to see you. That part of the song I always mess up, but I know what if you see Jamie, you know what I mean? I'm not a girl. Hit it, Britney. Ooh, not yet a woman. All I need is time, a moment that is mine, while I'm in between. My loneliness is killing me. I must confess, I still believe. When I'm not with you, I lose my mind. Give me a sign. Hit me, baby, one more time. Today is a day where I'm reading one of my favorite books that I anticipate will be a favorite that is being released. The time is now October 23rd and it is 11:36. I know you see that. And what I'm going to try to do, I'm going to try to vlog style this memoir and have it up tomorrow, like the day that it is being released. But I am going to read it, pop in, let you know my thoughts. I'm going to go to sleep. But I did want to come. I had all these hopes and these dreams of, not dreams, but like things that I want to do, but we're not going to do that. We're going to keep it simple because things is happening in the world. And I really would just like to keep the focus on that. But I also want to talk about the genocide of Palestinian people in this video. So I'm going to try to find some ways to put things up because a lot of stuff that I post and other friends post have been censored or taken down or things like that. So I'm trying to be careful of how I talk about things while also getting the message out there. So if you go to the description box below, you'll see a bunch of resources that I put down there. And we want Palestinians to be free. I'm a firm believer that I am not free until we're all free. So this video is going to be two-part. One of me talking about my love for Britney Spears, childhood on up. And then also putting in some parts throughout the video to also just to make sure that you are informed, I'm informed, and we must continue to do what we have to do. Free Palestine all day, every day. My love for Britney Spears is deep. It started when I was younger and it just manifested as an adult. Don't get me wrong, I don't have that fandom love like I did when I was like a teenager and just like, oh my God, Britney! But I still do love what she meant to me at times that I really needed her in a way. Like, she don't know me, I don't know her, but her music and just who she was just really like fit with me. I think I also was obsessed with her because her name is Britney and my name is Bree. We had the first letter name. I also have this fond memory of when a person who would visit where my mom worked was going to see Britney Spears, and my mom told them like how much I love Britney Spears. And what she did was the person then got me a autograph copy of a flyer, or like one of those big flyers when it was like a Pieces of Me flyer or something like that. I can't remember. I had that flyer and it had my name on it and I was just like super stoked that I was able to get that. So I kept that on my wall for many years. So love for Britney goes back a long time, and when she started to be in the public eye more and people were like stalking her, and you know, paparazzi just wouldn't leave her alone, and you know, drug addictions and like dealing with the father of her child and then having children, I just always was like that girl on the girl on the internet who used to be like, leave Britney alone. That's really how I felt. And you know, when you're young, of course you're gonna ride and die for your favorite idols. I don't know if I have the energy for that right now, but I still do think that people need to, I still think that Britney is a person who deserves for their story to be told, their story to be shared. It is difficult. I can imagine difficulty in life, even with, and constantly just watching different news outlets and just having her talk about like what the paparazzi was doing to her, inappropriate questions that, you know, journalists would ask her. I would just be like, why would you ask a woman that? Like, why would you ask someone that? It's always like focused on her sex life, like when she was in her early 20s. And I feel that way for some other actresses or black artists who also had to, black female artists who also have to be put under such scrutiny that other people or their counterparts wouldn't have to be put in. So not only was I a fan of her music, I also was very curious about her life, and not curious to the point where I was one of those paparazzis who just wouldn't leave her alone. I was just curious of like, how was she feeling about, you know, different parts of her career and different things that people had to say about her. Like, what did that mean? How did that make her feel? You know what I mean? And that could be the therapist in me as well, but I really, really liked Britney, and still do. I know that there are struggles, and I know things are present, but we all are a fan of who we are a fan of, and Britney is one of those people that I am a fan of. So let's get into this video.
So y'all remember last week when we talked about that employee from St. Martin Press being incredibly Islamophobic and racist to many of her followers, and she's the person that's in charge of what books get marketed at the company. She's trying to do a cleanup, posting links to aids that will help Gaza children, saying that Palestinians in Gaza should not be paying for the price of Hamas's attacks, even though you literally said that Hamas was Palestine and they represented them. Okay. Saying that you can't fathom being anti a whole religion or anti whole ethnic group or country. Extremists can exist in any community, but they are not representative of the community's values. Then what the hell were you representing last week? You represented Islamophobia. And neither St. Martin Press themselves or Wednesday Books has said anything regarding this. Many of my Bookish mutuals have said this, and I will say this right here, right now. I am not giving them any more of my money when it comes to their titles. I'm not touching any of their arcs. There's literally like one of them sitting in my net gallery right now that will collect dust until it expires. Them not holding their employee accountable means that they are supporting racism. And we know that they know that the bookish community, especially the BIPOC side, are not ones we play with, okay? Our buying power is very big and very loud, and they do not want to try us.
Okay, so before I get into anything about the book, I do want to say I did do a quick Google search to see if Britney Spears has ever done any like vocalizing about her position in different social justice movements, and because that's important to me, right? And I looked up and I didn't find anything. If y'all know something, let me know in the comments, but I didn't find not one word, not one peep. I just see a lot of videos of her dancing on her Instagram. But I did want to tell y'all something that she put on her Instagram. My book proposed was not to offend anyone by any means. That was me then. That's in the past. I don't like the headlines I'm reading. That's exactly why I quit the business 4 years ago. Most of the book is from 20 years ago. I have moved on, and it's a beautiful, clean slate from here. I am here to establish it that way for the rest of my life, my entire life. Either way, that is the last of it, and shit happens. This is actually a book I didn't even know needed to be written. Although some might be offended, it has given me closure on all the things for a better future. Hopefully I can enlighten people who feel particularly alone in most cases, or hurt or misunderstood. Again, my motive for this book was not to harp on my past experience, which is what the press is doing, and it's dumb and silly. I have moved on since then. Hashtag the woman in me. Now, in the beginning of this video, I did tell you that I am a fan of Britney Spears. But I am coming to realize, just as more and more things become apparent in the world, more and more atrocities, right now the focus is on Palestinians. The focus is on what the Israeli government is doing to Palestinians, which is a genocide. And then people are starting to understand what's going on in Congo, what's going on in Syria, what's going on, and also what's also going on in Sudan, which are also genocides. So more and more stuff are becoming more public knowledge, right? And everyone is hurt. Everyone's feeling like they don't know what to do or how to do things, and, you know, just need help, or people need their voices amplified. And that's what I think people who choose to be content creators and people who choose, really people who have big platforms, little platforms as well, but I really look at the people who have more reach to more people to, you know, speak against injustices that are done to people. And I know y'all heard me say this before, but you cannot be free until everybody else is free. So you can't think that, oh, I'm safe, I'm this, I'm that. You're not. You're not. We're all connected. Like that's just not a thing. So that is one thing that I try to always think about to myself and try to always say as well. So I am disappointed that Britney Spears, over the years, it seems like she has had not one piece of social justice or just one piece of allyship in that way. And that's just what I seen when I did a quick Google search. I could be wrong. I know Britney Spears fans are die hard, so y'all might come in the comments coming from my throat, but I just want you to know I didn't see it. And that's not to say it wasn't there, but if I had to really search for it, that is also telling, right? So I just wanted to say that. Now, the start of the book, it talks about her grandparents, the Spears, and their relationship to her father, and how this like toxic thing is woven through their family, specifically the Spears, or where the men tend to become very verbally and physically abusive to the women in their lives. So she talks about her relationship with both of her parents, how her dad was addicted to alcohol, and how he would be mean and things would happen and how it would make her uncomfortable, make her feel unsafe. She talked about the birth of her little sister, and she also talked about her brother and when he got hurt and how she was so terrified that she slept in the bed with him or was in his room for a long time, for years, because she felt like she needed to protect him. And as you continue to read the book, because I'm halfway through, a lot of things that she is doing is to protect other people, or her thoughts on protecting other people. And I don't hear a lot of her talking about people protecting her. She talks about this story where when she was about 13, she started drinking with her mom. And I was like, 13-year-old drinking with your mom? And she was also smoking cigarettes at that time as well. And then when she turned 14, she started dating her brother's friend, who was 5 years older than her. And she never talks about like what grooming is. She never talks about like she just says, you know, that was inappropriate. But it made me think a lot about so many girls in the world who get groomed by men and women, particularly by men. It's this attitude of like, oh, he made me feel special. Oh, he did this. Oh, he did that. And it's really hard to wrap your head around that you're being groomed and that you're actually in a very inappropriate relationship. I just found myself just really feeling for her in that moment of being like, you're in this relationship with this guy who is 5 years older than you. And it wasn't just like a relationship where it was like they hung out and just watched movies. It was a sexual, romantic, intimate relationship. And the fact that that happened, and it didn't feel like, I was confused of where her brother played a role in this. And she said that, you know, her brother found out and then, you know, told their parents, and it was this whole thing where their parents found out because the school said that she was missing so many days of school because she was getting picked up by this 18, 19-year-old and taken to his house. And, you know, so I just, hearing that was very heartbreaking. I don't even have a long explanation for you. It was inappropriate and it was heartbreaking. And then we move on to the part where she starts to try out for the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. If y'all didn't know that, Justin Timberlake, Ryan Reynolds, like so many people were a part of the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. And she was talking about, you know, trying out for that and then trying to start her singing career and how instrumental her mom was in that process. And then she talks about how, you know, as she's a teenager and she is, you know, a rising star, and Oops, I Did It Again began to play, and hit all these records, she started to notice there were more like middle-aged men coming to her shows, and it was making her uncomfortable. And my thing is like, wow, predators are everywhere. Like, how disgusting. Like, there's just so many times that we see, not just with Britney Spears, in young girls' lives, that they are forced to be put in positions where that they are just trying to live out their lives or live out their dreams. There's always some creepy folks, particular in this case men, who is just trying to be very inappropriate and be predatory. That is the only way to describe that. And I just can't stop thinking about like how it must have felt for her to be trying to perform and sing. In the beginning of the book, she talks so much about how she sung all the time and singing was everything to her. And then to have to perform and see these men, I would just feel so creeped out, so disgusted. I don't know what I would have done in those situations. And she doesn't give much reflection of what she was feeling other than like a word or a sentence. Also, I feel like the way that this book is written is very closely to this book that I read in the 10 Years Memoir video. Really wrecking my brain. I can't remember the name of the book or the author, but I'll put it up here. And the author writes her memoir as if she is like a spectator, and will put like a sentence or a word of her emotions into the story, but really it's like, let me just tell you the facts. And it's like you have very little insight into their emotions, and that is how it's feeling reading this book. I also want to say this and not make anyone or even Britney Spears feel some type of way if she ever watched this video, right? And who knows, I really doubt it. However, in the beginning of the book, she talks about her love for singing. And when she talks about her love for singing, she talks about this woman who was the nanny, and she would sing gospel, and it's the undertonings that this woman is a black woman. But the way that she was talked, the way that Britney Spears talked about this woman, and the way that her family seemingly talked about this woman, it was very much giving Mammy vibes. And it was hard for me to read that part. Like, it was just like, I don't know how to explain it. It's just a thing, you know, it's a thing. And I don't always have to explain, like, you know, my black tuition. But I was just like, and I will leave it at that. And now currently I'm at the part of the book where we are talking about Crossroads, which was like a movie I watched all the time. But she's talking about Crossroads and how it took her a long time to get out of character, and that, you know, she went to this shop to get some cosmetics, and when she left the shop, she felt like her soul returned back to her body. And that, you know, that line of being in the mind of a fictional character and being, you know, yourself was very hard for her. And she said that being an actor is not for her, and she does not want that any part of her life. So I will tell you more as I keep reading. I just had to come in. I just got to the part where I saw a bunch of snippets online of people being like, Justin's shaking in his boots about what, you know, Britney Spears revealed. And she just said that she got pregnant by Justin Timberlake, and he wasn't happy about the baby. The thing is, I'm not more concerned about him being happy or not. I'm like, you were pregnant? Damn. I didn't know that. That is more shocking than him not being happy or not. Because I can imagine a young white man socialized in the way that he was at that time may have thought having a baby is the end of his career. And it seems the way she describes their relationship, it sounds as if his career was everything to her, and she was just in love with him, and he was in love with his career, which is very unfortunate that a lot of people fall into the trap of you being in love with someone and they're in love with being ahead, being successful, being in a higher level or whatever. And not saying that that's always a bad thing, but it oftentimes comes at a detriment to the person that loved them, and that person feeling like they are not enough, and what happens in their life is not as important. Now, what is really, really upsetting me is that Justin forced her to have the abortion by herself and in the house with just her and a friend. And that's just really upsetting because there are so many complications that can go wrong when you're bringing a child in the world, or if you are choosing abortion. It's really unfair to her health. It's like you didn't give a shit about her health. She could have very well died. The way she's describing this, like she could have very well died. And because you don't want people to find out, you don't want your image to be tainted, you are willing to forego her health. And that is something that if I was her, I don't know how I would be able to get past that, because I am very much pro-choice, and I do think people should have the choice and the autonomy over their bodies. But for you to not want to give her medical attention to make sure that in the event that something go wrong, there is a medical staff that could possibly save her life, and you got her doing it in the house. You mean to tell me this white man said, hey, I'm gonna play this guitar. You are in pain, experiencing an abortion via pill, and you know what? I'm gonna play you a tune. I'm gonna play you a tune, and this tune gonna make you feel better. The way I would have been irritated, I would have had to fight him. He would have had to catch these hands. There's no other way. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. And I have literally in the last 10 minutes have been so shocked. This man broke up with her via text. Justin Timberlake broke up with her via text. I understand they were young, immaturity, whatever. I still haven't forgiven him for the nipplegate that happened at the Super Bowl with Janet Jackson. I still haven't forgiven him for his cosplay of black culture. Britney talks about his cosplay of black culture and that she think that he was doing too much. And then she talked about a scene in NSYNC when they went out somewhere, and I think it was like, it was a rapper, I can't remember which rapper, but a rapper came up to them and they all were like, yo, 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 dog. There's just a type of white relatedness that really, like, attempt to be relatable, that really grinds my gears. You know how many times people come up to me, hey sis, what up, what up? I'm not your sis. You know, I just, I don't have any words. Now I'm at a part where she's talking about her relationship with Jamie Lynn and how it drastically changed and how disrespectful she was to their parents. I don't know what her parents said to them, because I do feel like we should respect children. So I don't know what, you know, Britney Spears' parents said to Jamie Lynn that made her speak to them the way that she did. And she talked about how, you know, Jamie Lynn would just be upset with her, and how Jamie Lynn caught an attitude with her because she bought them a house. And I don't know, as a big sister, I'm a big sister and I'm a little sister, but as a big sister, a lot of times with my little sisters, if they do something, biologically I have 2 little sisters, but I actually have 4 little sisters. And if all of them did something, I would be like, I just want to say this, biologically or not, what's up, sis? But when my little sisters were growing up and going through different stages of development, and I was an adult, I was just like, you know, you're a kid, you're just trying to figure things out, like immaturity. But I also understand how a little sister can be irritating, can appear like they're being ungrateful. But there's a line in the book where, you know, that Britney Spears is like, I was being nice and I bought this house for y'all. And I don't know, like, where, in my mind, as a little sister, I'm like, okay, so you bought this house, great, thank you, I'm very thankful for it. But are you trying to rub this in my face? Like, just because you bought this house, do you think I, like, owe you this undying heart? Like, I just owe everything. I need to rip up an arm and just bleed out to you? Like, and I just supposed to accept the way that you treat me if your treatment is unfair? Like, does it all wash away because you bought me a house? And I'm saying that because we don't really get a lot of information about her relationship with her little sister. We just get snippets about her relationships with all the people in her life in the book. So I just don't know the circumstances to say that, you know, I agree or disagree or anything like that. I just know what it's like to get pressure from big sisters and them feeling like you owe them everything. And I also understand the snippiness from little sisters who is like, who do you think you are, kind of thing. So it's like, I know both ends. So it's just one of those things of like, we don't have enough information to judge her in this moment. And I wanted to read Jamie Lynn's book before this book came out, but life happens and I wanted to divert my attention to other things. So, but yeah, I would be very curious to read Jamie Lynn Spears' book and to see her perspective of her sister. I did remember when her book came out and it really enraged Britney Spears, and she was posting all kind of stuff on Instagram defending herself because apparently Jamie Lynn wrote her book as if Britney Spears was like this wicked witch of the East or the West or whatever that whiz, whatever y'all know what y'all be watching. So we just don't know is what I'm saying, as I'm being so loquacious on the internet, but we just don't know. As an older person now, I think about my early memories or my late teens and early 20s of going around being in, you know, heterosexual relationships and just being very upset of how my friends and I were being treated by the cisgender men that we were dating. And it was just really, really, really hard to be in relationships with them because it felt as if we had to hide behind purity culture while they thrived, maybe both. I'm like confused on what both. They were striving and thriving. And just to hear her talk about what Justin Timberlake did while she was essentially mute in Louisiana after the heartbreak, and not saying that, you know, Justin also had to be a hot mess. And I say a hot mess as if, like, you know, distraught over the breakup. I'm not saying that they had to respond the same way, but to go into the world and demonize Britney Spears and talk about your relationship and the intimacy of your relationship publicly about her without her consent was wrong. It was. There is no way about that. I couldn't imagine. So, you know, those of you who are Britney fans understand what's going on or what happened with her and the censorship and how her dad messed over her. But she's talking about when her father forced her to do an interview with Diane Sawyer about Justin Timberlake as he is out here, you know, flaunting and out here living his life. And she said that she didn't get any questions ahead of time to what the interview was going to be. And this is how I feel about her dad. He must do time. He must. He must. You, what? And then for Diane Sawyer to be asking her, like, what did you do to break his heart? What did you, not one question it felt. And I haven't seen the interview in a long time, but there was not one question that Britney has told us that she said, what did he do? It's the let me publicly shame her. And I really would love to understand why Britney Spears seemed to be such a easy target for or appeared to be an easy target for the media at that time, and even now, but I think it was definitely worse at that time, or it appeared to be worse from my perspective. It could be the same shit or worse from Britney's perspective, but wow, that is really upsetting. It's like when I learn more and more and more about her dad, I get more angry. Even when Oops, I Did It Again came out, she talks about how she paid off his debt. Y'all can't be out here having children and expecting these children to take care of you and just being very absent and emotionally detached parents. Y'all are really messing people up. You must do time also. You must. So I'm at a part of the book where she is talking about the immense amount of grief she felt when Kevin did what he did to her and insinuated that she wasn't a capable mom and was fighting the courts to get full custody. So outlines how he wasn't there and he was out partying with all of these A-lister stars and not being a present father. She talked about how her mom would constantly chastise her and make assumptions of her that wasn't true. And she talked about how hard it was being a mom and feeling like even the mistakes of motherhood was just so much in the tabloids or in the news that she felt like no one cared about her. Her family, her parents specifically, did not vocalize that they care about her. They didn't show her that they cared about her. So she felt very alone and contemplated suicidal ideation. And I cannot imagine, there's parents who are watching this and parents in my life, and no one's giving you a rule book on how to be a parent. And along the way, mistakes will be made. I understand that. However, sometimes I feel like parents like Britney Spears do things intentional to kind of break their child down and make their child feel less than or less than worthy. And this just is really unfortunate how we treat children. And I know I talk about that often, but it's really unfortunate as a collective how we treat children. And I will employ everyone to read About Love by Bell Hooks, and she talks about how we should be more kind and more accommodating and more steadfast in our support of uplifting children. And just the way that she's talking about how she is trying to care for her children even in not really knowing how to be a mom, because this is her first time being a mom, and how everything is just being thrown in her face, or people are just really in her face and making her feel uncomfortable. I'm sure so many parents can relate to that sentiment. One of the most eerie parts, sorry, you see my bowl in the back, but one of the most eerie parts of this book is when she talks about how her mom and her dad plotted to deem her unfit to take care of herself. They did a 2-part conservatorship on her, and as I'm looking at this definition, it's saying used to appoint a person when an individual is unable to make personal decisions or is unable to meet his or her financial needs, even with appropriate technological assistance. And she was talking about how her dad, she describes her dad as a drunk and having a lot of issues with alcohol and owing people, and how him and this woman came up with this plan to take everything from her. And then she said her dad moved into her house, took over some of the rooms in her house, like her office and another room. And then he told her to sit down, and he looked at her and he said, "I own you. I'm Britney Spears now." So he wanted to make sure that the conservatorship was two parts, where not only did it cover the estate, it also covered who she was. So he was in control with not only where she lived, what she did, and how she did it. He was also in control of her money, and he made her perform all the time to make him more money, and he paid himself more than what he paid her, and it was her who was doing all the work. And it's just the insidiousness of that I can't even say I'm disappointed, I'm mad, I'm angry. But you have to know that doing that to your daughter, using her just to feed your addictions, you have to know hell exists. Like, it's just really messed up. And what I suspect is, in the book, she talks about essentially being addicted to pain medication and alcohol. There's been a lot of speculations of other drugs, and because her mom wrote that book, went on that book tour, and said so many things about her daughter in addition to her dad, I would imagine people being like, oh, we still don't believe you, Britney. And that is really the hard thing about being a woman. No matter what you said, people are still gonna be like, and burner, you know what I mean? Like, they're still gonna be very unsympathetic and accusatory. And if the Salem witch trials taught us anything, it taught us that. Britney Spears just said that before a date she would go on, her dad will sit the person down and tell them a detailed account of her medical and sexual history. I'm angry for her, because that has to be some kind of HIPAA violation. Like, what? 13 years of having them take your cell phone away. 13 years of them telling you how you can move in the house. 13 years of them giving a bodyguard pills for you to take every day. 13 years of, if you even in the slight was against her dad and the woman who helped her with the conservatorship, if she did anything against what they asked her to do, or what they told her to do, they will then restrain her and send her to a psych unit. Her dad really need his ass whooped. The fact that she said that she was going months and months on her tour in Vegas, and one afternoon she did something minor, and her dad said, nope, you're gonna go to 4 AA meetings a week. You're going. She couldn't do anything, or he would reprimand her. And one day, while she's like, her kids really want her to watch a movie with them, she's going to all the AA meetings. She's doing what I think she said she did three-hour shows a week for him. She got paid nothing for those things. And she was like, Dad, please just let me watch a movie with my children. And he was like, no, you have to go to your AA meetings. And then she looked at her mom, like thinking if she looked at her mom would help her. And her mom just looked away. Said nothing, let it happen. As a therapist, I know that post-traumatic stress syndrome or disorder, depending on what camp you're in, can present very similar to drug use or drug abuse. And if you watch Britney Spears videos, if you pay close attention to her Instagram, you can see in her body language, in the way that she moves, in the way that she talks, that there is fear there is some uncertainty there, and there is like this skittish kind of behavior. And I say that from experience, and I say that from having so many people in my life who have PTSD and it being presented in certain ways, and also working with people who have PTSD. And I can see how people will think like, oh, wait, is she on drugs? But not understanding that her trauma responses are just very visible. They're very visible. You can see them. They are not something that she can hide. And if she is being traumatized, not if, she was being traumatized by her mom and her dad on a daily basis for 13 years. And the only thing in her mind that kept her going was the opportunity to see her children. And they would use her children, including Kevin Federline, would use her children, and her parents would use her children as a way to keep her in line. Like, if you don't do what I tell you to, you won't see your kids. And it's that mental trauma that is very expressive. You can see it on her face. And it's just really heartbreaking to know that these parents chose money over the livelihood of their daughter. Kevin Federline chose money and the opportunity to be with other famous people instead of the livelihood of the mother of his child, of his children. And I can't say that stories like this don't happen. I can't say that people aren't living these things right now, and not under not under a conservatorship. So I know I'm saying that word wrong because something about me, I have dyslexia, it's not rolling together. Earlier I said, I haven't seen anything about, social justice with Britney Spears. And now to give her some grace, I don't know how that would have been possible, of her being underneath the watchful eye of her parents and being underneath the let's just call it the ship. Her being underneath the ship. I just imagine, how would you have time? Simple request of, I'm sick, can I go to the hospital? No. I want to change my toenail color. And her dad also had the whole house with like secret cameras and like also like voice things, so that she would constantly be monitored all the time. One of her hairdressers were like, Britney, like, this is not okay that you're living like this. Like, this is actually really wrong. And the hairdresser offered to help her of like get out of the situation. And the next time it was time for her to get her hair, the lady was fired and she never seen her again. So anytime people would even try to be like, let me help you, Britney, somehow the dad found out, the mom found out, and they got rid of that person. So to live like that, and all you're thinking is trying to survive. She couldn't even have a cell phone. Like, everything had to go through her father. So how was she gonna be able to do anything, is my thoughts. So that is my thoughts on giving her grace in that period.
So in light of St. Martin's Press, I wanted to give you guys a resource that I used during the HarperCollins strikes, so that you can kind of see that publishing is pretty much run by, trad publishing is pretty much run by the Big Five, which the Big Five are Penguin Random House, HarperCollins, Macmillan, Simon & Schuster, and Hachette. And this website is almossawi.com/big-5-publishers/. And I use this as a resource to see what all the imprints are of all of these big publishers, because you never know when you're gonna need it. I keep this as a bookmark on my my like web page browser. I'm old. My web page browser app thing. I keep a bookmark just in case you have to use it. Now, if we zoom in here to Macmillan, you'll see that it goes down and it branches off to St. Martin's publishing group. And we'll see where St. Martin's publishing group branches down to. So as we zoom in, we'll see that St. Martin's Press branches off, and you'll see Wednesday Books there. So I just wanted to give you guys this resource so that you can use it in case you want to keep track of publishers and their imprints, because when we are boycotting, you never know who else is going to need to be looked at. So there you go, and you're welcome.
And another thing that I think explains her, one of the things that explains her demeanor and how she appears to people online is every time she said no or was tired or was overwhelmed and just needed a break or just needed to be with her children, it was denied. Every time she thought she was at the finish line, her parents and her team moved it further. And every time they got upset with her, they put her in they institutionalized her. And they put her on all kinds of drugs, including lithium, which is very dangerous and really can mess with your personality, your mood, and all kind of things. And to constantly be on those type of drugs on a pretty often basis, of course that's going to change how she talks and how she interacts and how she thinks. So that is just one thing that this is just really awful. I wasn't expecting to read so much trauma in this book. I knew there would be trauma, but I just did not expect this amount of it. And I don't like to be like, people should go to jail, and I know I kept saying this person and that person should do time, but it feels like every person in her life really messed over her is what it seems like. And is her father not in jail? Is her mama not in jail? Like, I'm very confused because I am almost done with this book, like 20 minutes left. And while reading this book, she has been institutionalized over 10 times. So I'm confused on why she's being institutionalized so many times. They had to pay off some doctors, and a lot of these people, it sounds like they were being paid off, and then just super unfair. And I just don't even have any words. Like, none of it makes sense. Like, A plus B is not equal C. It is Z in my book. Like, it's not making sense to me. So I am 11 minutes left into the book, and she's talking about like how she feels like she's finally being an adult. She can finally buy a cup of coffee, and like what that means to her. To me, that is trauma. That is why she comes across as childlike, and that's not to offend her at all. Like, it just, when a part of your development is stunted, it kind of leaves you at the moment that before the stunted, if that makes sense. It's like, for a long time, that girl can do anything. And if she tried to do anything, they would institutionalize her. Or if she tried to do something, they'll put more restrictions on her, take more things from her. And then for her whole family to act like they didn't do anything, and to act like they are the victims in this. Gaslighting at its finest. Well, there you have it. That is my full thoughts of Britney Spears' book. Her memoir called The Woman in Me. And it was raw. And I do think that there was a lot of things she said, and there was a lot of things that was left unsaid. And I feel like because of her being forced to be in the public eye, being underneath such strict control for 13 years would, you know, cause her to not say everything that she wants to say. And I think whatever she wants to say, that's her own story. What she doesn't want to say is also her own story. I want to thank you for watching this video and going through me as I read a book by someone who I loved a lot as a child. I also want to remind you again that there are resources in the description box below of all of the clips that I put in this video, and to also give you some more resources so that you can continue to help and aid in the freeing of Palestinians. Talk to y'all later. Bye.
So it has now been 10 days since St. Martin's Press learned of the racist, Islamophobic, and I want every single person, no matter how big or small your platform is, on any platform, to repost this, to share this, to make your own post about this. SMP is clearly trying to just stay silent and ride this out, and we're not going to let them do that. If it takes months, it takes months. If it takes a year, it takes a year. We're going to ride this boycott out. If you want to learn more about Palestine but don't have any access to books or reading for whatever reason, maybe you don't have access to a library, you don't have any titles available at your library, you can't afford to buy books, whatever it may be, Haymarket Books, which is a radical book publisher based in Chicago, is offering 3 of their Palestine books completely free as ebooks. They are available to download immediately. Just go to their website, and this is like their front page right now, so you should be able to find them very easily and read immediately.